The Pirus were formed in 1968 on Pirus Street in Compton. No single person is credited as being the founder, but most sources credit a man named Sylvester Scott as being the pioneer of the gang. During this time, the Black Panther Party was a dying movement, and they left a huge vacuum in their wake. In South Central, this vacuum would be filled up by the rowdy teenagers with no real prospects in life. Maybe in a different timeline, the Panthers would have saved LA from a lot of hurt. But without them, LA was heading for a long and brutal war. When you picture Compton, you probably picture something like an NWA music video. But in 1968, there was still plenty of white people in Compton. A lot of them didn't like the idea of mixing with the black people moving in from the South. And best believe they took every chance to let them know they weren't welcome. Vigilante groups like the Spook Hunters, Night Riders, and Minutemen would patrol the streets at night and harass any black faces in sight. Basically like Compton's own little KKK. Blacks were confined to their neighborhoods by the cops as well, never being allowed to walk on certain streets or in certain areas. So black people formed clubs to defend themselves. Years later, these clubs formed the structure that would be replaced by Crip and Blood sets all over the city. In 1972, the Pirus absorbed similar cliques in the hood to form the Bloods. See, the Crips were growing in numbers fast, and if you weren't with them, you were against them. The Crips were rolling so deep, they made everyone forget who the real enemy was. Crips called each other cuz, and Pirus called each other Blood. You diss Crips by saying crabs, and diss Bloods by calling them slobs. The color line became a thing not too long after as well. Crip and Blood heads kept clashing, and it was only a matter of time before the guns came out. All the kids were under pressure to get down with the Bloods. If you weren't a Blood, you were branded as a sucker, lame, victim, punk, or weak individual. The Bloods were on the defensive for a long time because of being outnumbered by the Crips, so they had to recruit heavily. Large parts of Compton, Watts, and Inglewood became Blood country. The new recruits achieved baby gangster status and were deluded into believing that putting in work for the set was their life's purpose. At age 11 to 13, they were too young to understand what they were getting into, but before they knew it, they were addicted to the thug life. Street life was addicting. It was electric and exciting. They all lived for the moment, caught up in a childish mentality where you could just go bang on the Crips, smoke weed, and kick it with the homies all day. As the years passed by, gang signs were developed to represent the different sets and cliques. Like the Crips, they had their own hand lingo and could literally communicate across the street like this. It was the easiest way to identify an ally. On top of that, dudes were so devoted to their sets that they get fully tatted in blood emblems, street names, and teardrops. Blooded meant full commitment. Hell, dudes even had their sets on their faces. Bloods were religious about their hoods and proud enough to risk their lives for them.
You're proud of the fact that you're Blood. Why is that?
Why?
Yeah.
Because I'm down. I'm down for it. Because I'm a true. I come from the heart.
But why being a gang? What's in it for you?
What's in it?
I mean, you get killed, right?
Yeah.
Well, you mean some of your friends been killed?
Yeah.
So
For the simple cause
what's the simple cause?
of being a blood. Going down with the bloods. That's how we feel. We die, it's like we go kill one of them. One of them died. Because they down for it, they'll get took out.
And then guess what happens after one of them die?
And they come back. And then it's
Right.
a feud until they don't want no more, until everybody just drop it. But ain't nobody gonna drop it.
Now, you're willing to die for whatever this cause is?
If that's what it takes.
Yeah, I'm not saying you want to. I'm saying you
No,
will.
I don't want to. But if somebody riled up on me and take me out, I guess it was my time to go like that. But ain't nobody did it yet, so I guess it ain't my time to go.
How old are you?
I'm 17.
In these times, fear ruled the land, and killing was equated with manhood. For a Blood, the path to OG status was paved with bloody knuckles and dead crabs. Out here, a gun made you king for a day, and the intoxication with power drew everyone to ditch the old fist-fighting ways and carry a strap at all times. South Central was full of wolves, and gangbangers became experts in sniffing out weaknesses and crushing it ruthlessly. No land for the weak. Unfortunately, for the good people of South Central, it wasn't going to get better for a long time either. Wrong answer. Simply existing as a Crip was punishable by death. The Bloods were extremely territorial and had all the time in the world to patrol their blocks. Stepping on the wrong block could cost you your life in these times. Walls everywhere were tagged up in cryptic graffiti. To a civilian, this didn't really mean anything, but to the opposition, it meant watch your step. It was like an actual war zone. Bloods even had a reputation for doing graffiti in actual blood. That's how bad the violence was getting. Bad enough that LA had the best trauma centers in the world due to the constant stream of gunshot victims. Fully desensitized to the madness, the Bloods had become a unit of street soldiers, ready to show their ability to produce violence on sight. As a Blood, you had to be alert at all times as well. Don't get caught slipping, as they say. You had to watch every car that drove by, press every stranger. Letting your guard down could mean death. Imagine living like that. Crack came in '81. It was by far the worst thing that has ever happened to America's hoods. It basically multiplied all the problems that South Central already had. Before this, a few hustlers would sling angel dust and heroin for money, but now the crack frenzy turned damn near all the gangbangers into dealers. It was the ultimate get-rich-quick scheme. If you could avoid getting shot, that is. Naturally, crime went up, and so did the murder rate and incarceration. To make it worse, black men with criminal records became unemployable, so they went right back to the trenches to do what they know best. South Central had a lot of decent folk, but man, it was a tough environment. It was crawling with crack fiends, dealers, and gangbangers. Imagine trying to make it out of that.
Bitch, I'm gonna kill me some crabs. Well, what do you consider crabs? Bags with blue rags. Well,
Since the beginning of West Coast rap, the rap game has been divided on the Crip and Blood color line. Gang politics played a big role in the rap industry, and still does today. Suge Knight was the first famous Blood to make it big out of Compton. He brought plenty of money to his hood, and gave the Bloods a lot of clout. After the rise of gangster rap in the 90s, rap became the machine that spread the Blood culture worldwide. It turned from an art form of creative wordplay used to vent out the struggles of the hood, or the soundtrack to a drive-by to a legitimate billion-dollar industry. In the early stages of the rap game, the transition was rough for many would-be rappers, as a lot of them were still caught up in the streets. Many died on the way to fame and fortune. If anything, Blood in rap today is more of a marketing gimmick, because rappers don't really bang anymore. Today, Blood membership is in the hundreds of thousands, with strong sets in cities like New York, New Orleans, and overseas as well. On a positive though, the death of Nipsey Hussle brought some unity to the city of LA and decreased the violence. Hopefully this downward trend continues and the madness stops.